Hello and welcome to the Creative Lotus Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Zaki.
Oh,
it's officially recording.
It beeped at me.
Yeah, it's a moment. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to do I'm going to do a little intro and then we'll just go on. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Creative Lotus Podcast. I am Alan Zaki, your host. On this week's episode, we have incredibly talented makeup artist, Nicole Whitman. You can talk.
What's up? Well, you tell me to be quiet and I'm listening.
You're quiet. That's great.
I'm
Active
trying
listening.
to, yeah.
I like it. I like it.
It's the new me.
It's the new me.
Post-COVID me.
Post-COVID me. I got a baby. I got a house. I am living my best life. Yes.
Yes.
So Nicole, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for doing this. Oh, yes, that ASMR. Delicious. Here, I'll open mine as well.
Yeah. We got, this is not a plug to get any sort of money for this podcast, but we have a Voodoo Ranger New Belgian beer, a Juicy Haze IPA because it's Cinco de Drinko.
Cinco de Drinko. Cheers to that. Okay, perfect. Delicious.
Yeah.
People are going to kill us. Anyways, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. But to kick things off, we want to have some background about you. So if you can kind of tell us where you're born and raised.
Yeah.
Let's jump right in.
I was born and raised in Las Vegas. It's very nice to meet you as well. I know we're not a lot of us. And then when I was about, I think 6, we moved to Sacramento, which you and I have had this conversation.
Yeah.
And then I was there from 6 until 12 and then back in Vegas from 12 until 21, where I was like, get me out of here, which I feel like is a weird thing for someone at 21 to say, get me out of Vegas.
Right.
But I had done it all.
Right.
You know, and I sound like an old person because all of the things in Vegas were amazing. Like the pool parties were kicking off. All of it was great. Now people sit on their phones. Like the clubs aren't as great. Right. Maybe it's just me, old me.
What is that experience like, though, growing up in Vegas? Because I think, everyone thinks of it as like Sin City. And so it's like the place to go when you are 21. But, living there, I'm sure is a completely different experience. I have family that lives there now, but, it's very suburban, which I think a lot of people don't see because they just see the strip. But growing up there, were you just like into every kind of bad thing or were you just like living your best suburban life?
What's weird is like everyone's like, did you grow up in a hotel? And I'm like, have you ever been to Vegas? There's literally like...
Did you grow up in a hotel?
But what's actually funny is I did spend...
Hold on. She's like, actually, I did grow up at the Bates Motel. You can't believe it.
Don't be stupid, but yes. I did live in a hotel. We did live in a hotel when I first moved there when I was like in 8th grade or something because our house wasn't ready yet. And so, yeah, it was Boomtown, which now it is... I forget what it's called.
Sorry. Little Chica dog. She's just trying to be in the podcast.
So I did. Yeah. Everyone's trying to get in. But yeah, so I did live in a hotel for 1 month. And then our house was ready. So then we lived in a normal house. But yeah, it was very different growing up in Vegas. And I didn't realize that, I think, until I left there and I moved to New York when I was 21. And realizing that people didn't underage drink as much as we did or underage club or, like those kinds of things. And we weren't bad kids by any means. We were just a little illegal at points.
I love that. Illegal.
I had a fake ID that said I was 25.
Wow. And that's a jump.
Right?
At 16?
No, probably more like 18.
Okay.
And her last name was horrendous to spell. Oh, no. And back then, they couldn't scan the ID, so they asked you how to spell the last name or your birth sign.
Oh, no.
Now kids, they're great today. They get the fake IDs that scan and, whatever. But yeah, that was...
I have a barcode and I have an app for that. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Fine. And kids these days look like they're 21 when they're 18 anyway.
It's true.
So that was not my luck.
That's so awesome. So you said you went to New York, and was that for you just wanted to get out of Vegas, obviously, but what was like the means for you to go to New York?
God, I hate giving him any sort of credit. But it was a guy I was dating at the time. And he got a job in New York, and I was just finishing up college, and I was like, I don't think I want to live in New York, But then I did, and I'm so happy that I went. And I mean, I broke up with him shortly after getting there because I'm going to admit this, I guess. I did use him to get to New York.
Got it.
Because then once I realized that I wanted to be there, I was like, oh, okay, well, let me just, get to New York and get my bearings straight, and then I can, move on.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know what? I think at a young age like that, you have to do whatever you have to do in order to get ahead, right? And I mean, to move across the country and go to a city like New York, which is hustling and bustling, which is not what Vegas, I mean, yes, it is, but different type of hustle and bustle. You kind of have to figure out how the heck you're going to get there and the best means to do it. So that makes sense.
And I wouldn't take it back for anything. Like, I mean, he was a great person for that time in my life. You know what I mean? And I was very fortunate that I was able to, do that. And it's funny because when we broke up, my parents were like, great, so you're coming home? And I was like, no, I'm not coming back to Vegas.
How long were you in New York for?
Like a little over 3 years.
Got it. And you said you went to college. Was that for like makeup, or was that, what were you doing before you went to New York?
No, I was a criminal justice major with Japanese and communications minor.
I mean, international. Konnichiwa.
Oh,
what?
Konnichiwa, watashi wa Nicole des.
Hi.
I know I don't look smart, but I was. Well, you guys can't see me. I look smart.
They'll see your beautiful face in the pictures we send them, okay? So, wow. Okay, so criminal justice and Japanese as a minor. What was your plan with that going to New York?
Well, what's funny is I loved criminal justice, and I never wanted a job in it because I didn't like any of the jobs. Like, I didn't want to be a cop. I didn't want to, do like forensic science or like, CIA or things that were associated with it. I wanted to do entertainment law at some point, which is great for UNLV. UNLV was where I went to college, and they have a great like entertainment law program. And so I was, I guess, leaning towards that. And then I got a job at MAC Cosmetics, which is like, I never was a makeup artist.
Right.
And I used to shop at MAC all the time with my mother, but like never had picked up a single. And I started out there as a cashier at the Caesar's Palace.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure that experience, you saw all kinds of things working at that MAC.
We could have a whole podcast on the things I've seen in Caesar's Palace alone. From years like 19 to, 21.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that whole city in general, the things you see and the people you meet are just wild. You don't think it's real life. You're like, am I tripping or are you tripping? Or are we both tripping? I don't know.
And that's what's crazy. Everyone's always like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And I was like, no, it goes home to your wife. Like, please don't say that. And I stay here. Yeah. Like, and I clean up your mess. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Or like, or my heart's broken or, whatever, because you decided to, think that Vegas isn't part of the planet and you just think whatever you can come and do here. And then you go home and your wife's like, oh, it was in Vegas? Sure, fine. Like,
look the other way. No, not the case. I know that's their slogan, but the reality is that, it's a normal day-to-day life for a lot of people that live in Las Vegas.
Well, what's crazy too is Vegas actually used to be geared towards kids and families. When I was like real young there, it was like the Circus, the Sahara, the Excalibur, all of those were geared towards having families come. So I saw the change of it being like a family place into a
heathen.
Yeah, an adult playground.
That's
but luckily I was growing with it. We evolved together, Vegas and I.
There we go. Like sisters together.
Yeah.
Las Vegas and I grew up together on the hot streets and went from childhood circus to just a heathen in the streets.
Yeah. To Caesar's Palace,
Yeah. So, okay, so it sounds like you went and worked at MAC in Vegas, but then ultimately went to New York. Did you then get a job at another MAC store, or were you working in makeup when you went to New York?
Yes. So I started out as the cashier when I was at the MAC in Vegas. And then I was like, oh, I really like this. And so I then got promoted to a makeup artist probably like a year and a half. Sorry.
That does that to you.
That
Voodoo
IPA.
Ranger.
Ugh. Thank God this is just audio. So I was a cashier, and then I got promoted to a makeup artist. And the pro store was great. Like everyone there was such an artist. And so I learned basically like everything I know, you know, from that short period of time, because I feel like they don't create like that anymore. Like the people that were teaching me and all my mentors that were working there were all like very true artists. And I like learned to body paint, and then I like body painted at Studio 54 in Vegas.
Wow.
So it was like, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Learning there. And then so I went to New York as a makeup artist, and I applied at the Bloomingdale's Soho store. Okay. And luckily, you know, a manager, Leslie Peck, shout out, hired me to be like a third key there. So I went there and kind of continued my career with MAC.
You obviously went to New York and you were working in, you know, MAC Cosmetics and everything, but now you're like a full-fledged makeup artist. So where did you kind of make the jump off? Because obviously New York is known for the industry of fashion and beauty and advertising and editorial, you know, is all really based there. Yeah. So did you start working with other pro makeup artists, or were you working on your own book? How did that kind of transition start for you? And was it even in New York, or did you come to LA? It
wasn't a jump. It was more of a shove, because
wow,
Mac fired me. And thanks, Mac. I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Because it's like one of those things where I felt like I would have never left had they not kicked my ass out. I would have never left, because you create so much there. Like, and Mac really is a family, and I'm still friends with a lot of people who work for the brand, and it's really great. Like, because we've all kind of grown up, and some people are still with them, and like, you know, some people have moved on. So yeah, with them, I remember like walking the streets, like, because I was at Saks Fifth Avenue at that Mac at the time, and I was like in tears being like, what am I going to do now? Like, Mac has fired me. Like, who's going to want me now? Right. You know? So yeah, it just kind of like led into me having to struggle and get like some freelance work and some, you know, like I ended up then like getting another job with Dior. And then I just kind of realized that like my talent was being wasted at a counter, you know, like I felt like I was like a creative person that really needed to expand and, you know, expand my wings, if you will. Yeah. So I kind of then just started freelancing, and Mac gave me a bunch of opportunities. Like I was able to travel with them. I went to, well, ironically, after they fired me, some of the people there still loved me. And so I actually got jobs doing, Milan, Paris, fashion weeks with them. So I literally then was on the team again, but now doing fashion shows in, you know, different countries. Yeah. So it was great. Like, yeah. So I felt like that really was like, that probably was the starting point. Like I had to take probably about a year and a half away from Mac, and then like realized I wasn't blacklisted from the people that could hire for the things I wanted, and then got back into it and, you know, kind of started freelancing that way. Wow. So it's weird. They like gave an opportunity to me, took it away, and then gave me an even better opportunity. So
right. Yeah. Mystic how that happens. Yeah, because what a lot of people don't know, and maybe you can kind of elaborate on this, is that the MAC Cosmetics stores, and like you said, the counters, if you will, at these stores that you purchase the makeup is not all they do, obviously. No. So, you know, doing shows through these big brands like MAC, you know, you're going to Paris Fashion Week, you're going to Milan Fashion Week, you're doing the faces of all these models and making, you know, the designs how they want it and everything. Right. Yeah, it's almost like you said, you needed that kick in the butt out of Mac to like find out that like, oh, you have the talent and the ability to do what you want to do. That doesn't mean I have to sell, you know, another I can't even talk. Yeah. Another lipstick or something to another person. Yeah. And, you know, then be like, great, thank you so much. Bye. You know, but rather, no, I'm going to, you know, make amazing art on these models' faces and create work that actually matters and has like importance to me.
Yeah, and make, you know, whoever's fired me want me back. You know,
there you go.
It's like a relationship, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you sad you ever left me.
Yeah, that boyfriend that took you to New York. I just used you to get there.
Ew.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's so good.
I was like,
ew,
make
don't twist
everyone
that.
know I loved him.
Yes, for the record,
Yeah.
whoever you are out there,
Yeah.
stuck in wherever you're at. So beyond just the struggle of, being fired, what other struggles have you really had to go through in this industry that have really helped you to become more creative in your fields of makeup artistry?
God, I thought you said we only have an hour.
Whoa.
Sorry.
The door's open and we're living our best life.
I know.
It's okay.
I actually hear the birds chirping and I was like, this is going to be very sweet. It's going to sound angelic. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm out of struggling. I feel like as an artist, we always are kind of struggling, and not in necessarily like a bad way. I'm not like, struggling to.
Here comes Bambino.
Unbelievable.
We're taping a goddamn recording.
We're filming a podcast.
Yes, we're filming a podcast on
Can't
audio
you
only.
see? God, I know. I should have moved to a nicer neighborhood where people don't have cars you can't hear anymore.
Yes, if you don't drive a Prius that is all electric or it's a little bit of gas, then you can't live here. Sorry.
Just a plug,
Yeah,
for
just
Prius.
a plug away.
Get yourself a Prius. Live in a nice neighborhood. Get yourself a Prius. No, what's the new one? Tesla.
Yeah,
There
a
we
Tesla.
go.
Oh my gosh, they're everywhere. Oh, wait.
Oh God,
It's a whole
I know,
side note.
and I'm going to get ran over for the first time in my life because I can't hear cars coming.
Especially with these headphones on.
I got headphones on and like.
I have a baby and headphones and I don't hear your car and all of a sudden you ran me
know.
over at 100 miles an hour. Thank you, Tesla.
Was I walking on the freeway?
No, because they just drive like that on the regular streets.
I see. Yeah.
It's a very fast car. I don't know if you've been in one or not.
It drives itself. So I never went in it. I had it run an errand for me.
Fabulous. Hey, Tesla, go get the groceries.
Yes.
Okay, so we went
hey,
on a
Siri, go get the groceries.
Soon enough. Don't play because Apple will be. They are listening, and she will try to figure out how to do that for you.
Yeah. So struggling.
Yes.
Like I said, I feel like I'm still like in different parts now. It's a different struggle. Like in New York, it was like struggling to find people who would hire me, and struggling to like put my book together and struggling to like, eat. And now it's like struggling kind of, I guess, more in like getting the clients that I want to work with and, and more so like building my book to where I feel it's more of like, I guess I'm battling with myself and making myself better. It's not like a struggle like it used to. So, but I mean, there's still times where it's like, you start doubting yourself, especially like when COVID hit, you're just like, what am I going to do now?
Right.
Because you start thinking if this is sustainable and if it's going to last through a pandemic, because what we do is extra, it's not, no one's dying.
We're not essential workers.
There we go.
Yeah.
I feel essential. But
I mean, I do too, but
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah. In the reality of things, it's not considered essential work.
right. And it's not like we're a luxury. That's
Yes.
what we
I like that.
Yeah.
We're luxurious.
Yeah, we're a Tesla.
Yes.
And we're quiet. But yeah, so it's just like when you start realizing that it's kind of that easy. Like it was one day I'm working, then the next day I'm not. And it's almost like, but like, am I going to work? Because they're saying no, and then each month that goes by, you're like, should I? Like, I started looking up jobs of like, and I was like, well, what can you do? You're an artist. And like all the things that are thriving are corporate.
Right.
And my mouth won't let me in a corporate door. Like, so yeah, I mean, so I struggled but the thing is, it's like, I feel like I never give up. I don't give up on the industry and I don't give up on myself. And there's something in me that's telling me that like, this is where I should be at.
Yeah.
So I just keep trying.
No, absolutely. I think, you have to have that type of perseverance and never give up spirit in order to stay in this industry. Because like you said, we're luxury, and I don't know why I said it like that. We're luxurious people. We're the Tesla of industry, if you will, because it's a luxury to be able to do what we do. Right. If you can kind of explain just for the listeners, you kept on saying that, building your book, what does your book mean in the sense of what you do?
Well, it could easily be erased these days because it's on the web. I do still have a physical book though. I should bring it out and show it to you of all my like it's crazy to like kind of look at the last, God, I feel like I've been doing this. I think it's like 18 years or something. So I had a physical book because when I was in New York, that's what you took around. You took your book. And I've even thought like out here, like printing my pictures and taking my book back in because no one's doing that.
Right.
And I thought that would set me apart, and I should really do that. I haven't yet, but maybe one day, it's like, I just feel like kind of bringing back some of that like nostalgia and, because there's so many artists out here. And there's so many great artists and, you're constantly competing but finding out what makes you stand out or makes you like people want to hire you, and I think there's something to be said about someone who still like hits the pavement and goes and gets clients. Like I'm constantly still reaching out to people and being like, hey, this is what I do. Hire me, because we need to like, and I do it all myself, which is, I thought maybe I didn't want to do it myself, but for now I do want to do it myself. I like where I've gone and I like to see that I've done that. So for now, I guess I'll just keep doing it myself.
Nice. Yeah, I think that the printed image and so your book being like your portfolio of all the work that you've created.
Yeah.
It is something unique. There's something special about having something tangible in your hands and being able to see the physical work that you've created and also all the detail. I think that we're so consumed by our phones, our tablets, computers, and just looking at all these images on the screen constantly, but being able to physically see it and look at it and go, wow, like this is quality work that you've done that hasn't, been overly retouched or, blurred or changed or whatever. And you can't really tell because it's a small digital file, but, really being able to see that like, wow, you do incredible work.
And that's what's crazy is I feel like when I send my photos, I don't know what they're getting. Like the
resolution. Yep.
Yeah. I don't understand. Like, I don't know the resolution that they're getting. So I'm kind of like, what if they're like, I'm not hiring this girl. Like, what is this shit? You know? So, I mean, yeah, I feel like also like, especially now, I mean, obviously people are scared to be around other people, but there's something said to, like getting in someone's like space and, like letting them know that you're there and not being scared to be like, like we hide behind internet and computers so much. And like, I think there's something to be said about someone who's like bold enough to like, this is me. I'm actually a person. I'm not, an algorithm or,
Yeah. Well, I think so much about our industry is about connections, right? I don't know about you. And I think you would agree that so much of the work that we get is based on referral and the people knowing us and trusting us to hire us, right? Yeah. And even if it's a client that may not know you, the word of a referral from another artist or another person that you've worked with goes a lot longer or further, I think, than necessarily just getting an email or a blast. Like you said, showing up at someone's door with your book and saying, hey, I would really love to like have 5 minutes of your time to be able to show you it, and hopefully we're able to work together, kind of goes further than I shot you an email with 1,000 other emails you're getting throughout the day to hopefully you'll even open it. And like you said, you don't even know what the quality or color of it's going to even look like on their screen, their phone, their whatever they're looking at.
Or it's easy to just disregard it. Like as soon as they open it, like you can't disregard me if I'm in front of you. I mean, exactly. You can, but that's rude. Yeah. So yeah. And that's how we're friends is like, God, we met on a set so long ago and we've done so much work together just from like building. It was like 2-3 days on a set? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? And then since then it's just like, so yeah, I feel like I don't ever take that for granted. I don't take for granted being on a set and being able to like almost network even while I'm working or make connections with people that are just long lasting and sincere. Yeah. Because this industry isn't, so much like that.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, it's such a large industry. Yes. And like you said, there's a ton of artists, especially now with, the digital revolution of content, but it is also extremely small in that you can literally throw a stone and the person that was the production assistant on this job you did is now, the director of photography or like, just won a freaking, Oscar for a new film. And you're like, wait, what? It is that small in that regard. So I think, making those connections on sets, you never know where it's going to lead you to. So I think I don't know about you, but I think treating people with kindness, no matter what their job is on
Right.
set, is really crucial as well, because you're still building those relationships, and your reputation is like everything.
And there's so many like PAs who are now doing like, because in our industry, like that's kind of the starting ground. That's where
Yep.
you have to start as like a PA if you want to do anything. And I do like, there's a lot to be said about people who do every job in the industry before they get to like being director, or because then they know, and you can tell those sets because they're run better. And so you can kind of like, and those people, you know, are respectful of everyone because they've been in like everyone's shoes and they've tried it and been like, oh God, that sucks, you know? So like, yeah, even the people who make our food, I'm like, thank you. Or like who take our trash. Like, you know, if someone's coming in my room and emptying my trash, I'm like, thank you. Because, you know, without any of these people, I'm like a mess.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with all that being said, you know, and it sounds like you've, you know, done a lot of work in New York in a very fast-paced city. What have you found to be your greatest strength and also your greatest weakness while working as like a makeup artist?
Oh, this feels like an interview question.
I know. It does feel like that, doesn't it?
Well, and you're just like, you know, like when you get interviewed and people are like, what's your weakness? And you're like, I don't have any.
Next. Check. Thank you so much for coming in. Have a wonderful day.
My greatest weakness is being too kind, you know?
Wow. That's the interview response we're looking for. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like my strengths would be it's a good one. You couldn't prep me before, like send me an email?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah,
Spontaneity.
I was going to say this is all spontaneous. I haven't been given any of the questions. So, yeah, I feel like building actually relationships is quite a strong point for me. And being able to be adaptable and not, you know, like, oh, like I only have one way of working. You know, it's like everyone is kind of there together creating something. And so I'm quite open and like, you know, if you're like, hey, Nicole, this isn't working. Okay, let's change it. It's just makeup. It comes off. I'm not going to cry about it. I have a zillion other ideas. We can sort this out, you know? So it's kind of like, yeah, being able to roll with whatever it is. Because there's a lot of times where you get a mood board and kind of prepped for a job, and then people are like, you know, either the model shows up or it's a different model, or, you know, they couldn't get something. So now, you know, everything's kind of changed. So I feel like being able to kind of just like be like, all right, things have changed. What other ideas do I have? You know, and like, how can I, you know, work with what I'm now presented with? A weakness would probably be calling people back. No, not keeping in touch on my days off.
It happens.
You know, not wanting to drive to your side of town. That's a
Hello, LA. Seriously though. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
You know, I think a weakness is that sometimes I doubt myself, and I have spent COVID months working on that. Like, I know a lot of people have seen COVID negatively, and there's been a lot of, you know, crappy parts about COVID, and I don't want to take away from that. But I also think that, like, I've thrived in some parts of COVID. And it's also allowed me to take time to rethink my game plan, you know? So as crappy as it was to, like, you know, lose work and or not work, I had a baby. So I was like, yeah, honestly, I switched gears and I was like, fine, I can hang out with my baby, you know? And I feel very fortunate that I did have something to fill my time, so I didn't, you know, start doubting myself and my career, because at the beginning I was, you know? And so I feel like I'm working on that. I'm working on not, if a client doesn't call me back immediately or like use me for their very next job, it's not that I'm shit.
Right.
It's that they don't know what they're missing.
Yeah. No, it's true.
You know, or it's just, it happens. You know, everyone knows a makeup artist. Everyone knows a hairstylist. Everyone has a friend.
Everyone knows a photographer.
Everyone is a photographer.
Hey,
So, you know what I mean? Like everyone has friends. And so it's like things just happen.
Yep.
And not taking that as like my own self-worth, you know? So yeah, I'm growing, I hope.
Yeah. No, that's huge though. I think not getting caught up in the idea that, like you said, someone didn't call me, someone didn't hire me, and thinking that like, oh, I must be lesser now because of that. Rather saying, you know what? They chose someone else to work with. That's great. But I know my worth, and I know that they'll come back to me in due time, and we're just going to keep moving forward as well. You know?
Or I'll get something else and
Right.
I'll be like, that's why I couldn't, like, that's why I didn't get that job, is because something else came. And it's like, I feel like if you're quiet enough, you'll hear why you didn't get the job, and like, or you'll see,
Right.
you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, if you pay attention enough to the world and what's going on, you'll realize that like, oh, I didn't get this because I got this now, or like, I didn't need that actually. I thought I needed it and I thought I really wanted it.
Right.
And I didn't need it, you know? So, but it's hard to stay there, you know? So I'm constantly like in and out of there.
Yeah. Well, I think, like you said, having so much time with yourself and your own thoughts, especially as a freelance creative, it's easy to get caught up in it and go, oh my God, like constantly thinking like, am I ever going to work again? Like you said, like looking for a job. Like, do I need to go work in corporate America now because
Hot dog
I'm
on a
not
stick?
I die. No, but that's a good ass corn dog. Let's just be real.
And the lemonade, when I was pregnant, I had that lemonade daily. Thank you, Hot Dog on a Stick, for staying open.
She's just working on creating sponsors for this podcast, and I'm living for it.
I'm
Thank
plugging
you.
all of my favorites.
Right? She's like, listen, this is the drink. This is the tea. This is what you need. A hot dog on a stick. Yikes.
Send me a Tesla.
Exactly. Yes. Give us the cars. Elon, we will dance with you like cuckoo people.
Yeah.
Just give me a Tesla. I need an X. Okay,
I'll name my kid after a planet.
Exactly. Or whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
I'll call it a Tesla Y. I don't care.
Yeah,
I'll just
fine.
call my baby Y. Why?
Honestly, I constantly am asking, why are you doing that? So I might as well just change your name.
Sign us up. We're here for it. Has there been, like you said, in the span of your career so far, which sounds like you're seasoned, I was about to say actress, you're a seasoned makeup artist, which is amazing.
Fake it till you make it.
We all have to act a little in this industry. No, but has there been a moment in your career that you felt like, wow, I've really made it in a goal or something that you've achieved that like really, kind of brought you joy or maybe brought something out and you're like, I've been working so hard and this moment was kind of like, wow, I kind of have accomplished something that's worth my while.
And that's been happening recently, which is like great, and I think too, we're very hard on ourselves. So I feel like I'm going to probably mention things that have happened more recently that like I'm very proud of and I feel like I've made it. But there's other things along the way, like, I've been London, Milan, Paris for Fashion Week. That's making it. You know, some people never do that.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I have like my most recent one was when I got an email from Gucci and I was just like dead. Yes.
Deceased.
Yeah.
Can't even.
And the artist I've been working with is just like, she was doing a shoot with them. And so they reached out and they're like, hey, she said you're her artist. We're shooting her. And I was like, okay. So I was just like, oh my God. So that was like very exciting. And then they, sent me makeup to use for her. So I was just like, yes. The other, big moment for me recently was the artist I was working with, Phoebe, went to the Grammys and I was obviously over at her house getting her ready, and we're not allowed to go for these Grammys because,
COVID.
So I went home and I was like, what am I supposed to do with myself? I had such an amazing, day getting her ready. And then about 8 p.m. I get a text from Vanity Fair. And they were like, hey, we want to ask you some questions because we're going to post, the makeup look for Phoebe Bridgers in our magazine. Do you have time to talk? And I was like, yeah. I look at my husband and I was like, Vanity Fair wants to talk to me. And I was just like, it's like one of those things where you're just like, and I felt so grateful. Like, I'm so grateful to be working with Phoebe. I don't take that for granted for a second. And I'm so happy that she chooses me every time that she does, and everything that I've kind of gotten along with that, I'm grateful for. So it's kind of like I was waiting for my person, you know what I mean, to come along, and we're collaborate together and, you know, really work together. And it's not ever like, I don't know. Yeah, we just get along really well. We have similar like views, and I just really enjoy working for her. And like, yeah, so I just am excited to just continue our journey and see where that goes, and not taking it like she can choose another artist at any time. Mm-hmm. And she has worked with other artists, and I'm not like upset with that. Like, you know, I want her to experience other artists, diversity, you know? Yeah. So it's all, you know, it comes back. And if it was only meant for me to, you know, work with her, well, now it's been a year. So it's like, you know, 2 years or a year and a half or whatever, then it's kind of like something else will come in its place. And that was our time. And, you know, I got a lot of great things out of it. So,
yeah. Talking about that bond that you have, you know, with clients, and the work that you do is so interpersonal because you're obviously painting and working on the person's face. Has that collaborative effort really made it so that you have to be like a really outgoing people person, or do you find yourself to be, you know, obviously I don't think you'd get along with every single person you work with, but a matter of, you know, there's a certain level of understanding I think you have to have with every client that you work with.
Right.
So how do you kind of go about that, especially working with someone new, or that is like a client that you've maybe never, worked with? Yeah.
Yeah. That I think has to go with the adaptability, because not everyone is going to love me, my personality, like my real personality or my work. But I feel like it's about reading the energy of that person or the room of that person. And, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, like, they're my boss, you know what I mean? So I have to, you know, respect that. I mean, we are creating, you know, together, and it's nice when you feel like you have like, you know, a friend that you're kind of working with. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's still work, you know? And so just being able to recognize that person's energy or feeling and being like, oh, okay, like today I can be a little bit more silly or funny because they feed off of that. If they, you know, have had kind of like, if they're, you know, reading lines or, you know, have to be in a serious space, then I'm not going to create a joking space. You know, it's like, I'm then going to be a bit more serious, you know? So I feel like it would probably be funny to get everyone I worked with in a room, because no one would say I'm probably the same, you know? I mean, a lot of them would, but I'm saying like, there's just times where you have to be like calm, collected, and quiet, or, you know, funny, or, you know, so it's kind of just like finding that vibe. But I think that's why I like working with Phoebe, is because I am my true self, and like we can, you know, talk and we have conversations about the looks. It's not just like, you're the artist, create, you know, because sometimes she has ideas obviously as well. She's also an artist. So it's just very much like, a lot of people think it's like, it's your job to create. And it's like, well, it's my job also to like understand what they're looking for. Not everyone's looking for like this big aha creative moment, you know? Yeah. Which, you know, I always love.
Yes. A good aha creative moment. Indeed.
Which I always force you to do with me.
I love it. Yeah. Always push the buttons, and yeah, we have such fun time on set. But I think you tap into something that is maybe not as well known by people that, you know, are listening to this podcast that may not be in this industry, but it is such a collaborative effort to create the work that we do, whether that's for print or video or a red carpet, an award show, whatever, that everyone has to really put the efforts in together in order to create the final product. And that it's not just like the artist, the photographer, the makeup, the whatever, but like without all of those things, you really don't get that end result.
Yeah. And you can tell when the energy's been off. You know, some photographs you might look at and it's not the photographer's fault. You know what I mean? It's just like, maybe they all didn't get along, you know? And so, and you can tell when there's like these amazing photographs, and that's why people pick their teams time and time again, is because they've created gold, and, you know, it's an image that like takes you somewhere, or that reminds you of something, or makes you feel something. And like, that's the kind of work that I like doing. It's not always what I get to do, you know? But that's the work I like strive to be constantly doing, is where people see an image and it's timeless, or it makes them feel something, and it's not just like, oh, that's a model, and she's gorgeous and that's gorgeous. And like, you know what I mean? It's just like, I want there to be some sort of like feeling, which is, like I said, it's not always what I get to do, but if I could, I would do that stuff, day in, day out.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about your book and everything and kind of like, oh, I should bring it out so we could see kind of the collection of work that you've created over like 18 years.
Yeah.
But do you find yourself now, because you have, done so many different projects at a very kind of high level of quality, if you will, do you find yourself only wanting to do those types of jobs, or do you still get a creative juice and flow and excitement doing, say, like a test shoot, or doing something that's for your book, or doing something that's maybe just like popped into your head, or a creative concept that you've created? Do you get the same type of joy out of that type of work, or do you still do that type of work compared to that of, doing, a Vanity Fair shoot, or, who, what, where, or whatever it may be?
Yeah. I'll always test. I still test. I don't need to get paid to do what I love. Like, yes, it's nice. But a lot of the paying jobs are not always your bread and butter or what goes in your book.
Right.
Like a lot of my paying jobs too, like people might not see, because it's a great paying job, but it's like, for me, yeah, I like being creative. And so you probably see most of my test shoots going up, because that's where I have a lot of fun. And like, that is where we get the feelings from other people, and like being able to create with a team and then see a final result is just as rewarding, whether we've made money or not. Obviously, of course, it's nice to make money, but we don't always need to make money to feel like fulfilled. And I think that like that's easier to say now that I make money, because when you are struggling, you're kind of like, I'm not going to go out unless they pay me.
Right.
And now I'm kind of like, yeah, let's test shoot, or like, let's play around, or like, can my baby come?
Maybe Frankie needs to be on set, or else I'm not getting up. It's like the opposite. It's, I'm not waking up unless I get $10,000. I'm not waking up and working unless Frankie comes along with me.
I'm not waking up the baby.
There we go.
But yeah, I mean, she is modeling, if you guys are looking. She's already had one modeling gig.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I did actually, one of the shoots I was on, I brought her with me because they needed a baby model as well. So it was funny. I have a picture up, I think it's on my Instagram, of me holding her. She has a brush in her hand. I'm working on the model. And like, honestly, I think that women should know that like, that's okay. And the first person I ever saw bring their baby on set was Alex Box. And I was working backstage on a fashion show, I think in Paris, and her baby was strapped to her. And she was busting out models. And like, that really inspired me, because, a lot of women in the industry are like, how am I going to be a mom and a freelance artist? Or how am I going to juggle, doing this? And it's like, I don't like, you should feel okay. Like, I didn't feel that. I would love to bring my baby to work, and if it's appropriate, like, I will, because, and I want her to know that too. Like, that's a special thing for Frankie to, be with me while I'm working, and know that like, this might be a new path that we're paving, and women shouldn't be afraid to like have a baby and want to work. Yeah. And we shouldn't be shut out of a workplace because we've done that, know? So yeah, I mean, I'll try to bring her as, so if anyone's looking for a mom and baby duo. Yes.
I can do makeup and I have a child. You want both.
We're fast because I do the eyes and she does the lips, because I strap her to me, and she's
good with a lip pencil.
Oh my God.
I love it.
Best, yeah.
A good outline, and then you just fill in with a quick little lipstick and call it good.
Done.
Slap a gloss in there. We out. Yeah.
And she's COVID friendly, because apparently kids don't get it. So No need to test her.
I love it. No expense there. So obviously you've had so much change in this last year, having Frankie and going through COVID, and you have a gorgeous home now and everything. So, looking back on, your career and everything, what brings you the most happiness now compared to when maybe you started out in, Vegas and then New York and then, coming to LA?
Yeah. Happiness now, I guess, is just being able to work and choose the clients that I want to. I've spent a long road trying to be able to, it sounds crappy, turn people down that aren't what I feel, you know what I mean? Because like, I'm not just like, you can't just pay me off to work, you know? And so being able to say, hey, that's not like in my realm of like things that I believe, or this company isn't for me, you know, it's like, I feel like that has brought me a lot of joy, being able to say yes to a lot of clients, but then maybe say no if I ethically think that something isn't right, or if I know. Please don't get mad at me if I didn't know someone was being ethically, you know, correct. But like, yeah, I feel like that brings me a lot of, you know, happiness, being able to do that and not second guess it, like second guess my thought or second guess why I've made that decision, you know? And I feel like a lot of being a freelance artist is not just career based, it's life based. Like I feel like, you know, it's the same thing with when you're meeting people or you're dating, or like, you know, it took me a long time to find my husband and have a baby, you know. I'm gotta be 37, so, and I met my husband at like 32, so I've never really settled, you know. And I think just being able to do that is a privilege, you know. It's not always easy. And it's not like, it doesn't always make you feel good to like do that. But yeah.
Do you feel like a lot of your happiness when you were starting out was derived from just being able to work and make money, versus now it's really, like you said, you are able to pick and choose who you want to work with based on your own preferences and the clients and your own availability? Yeah,
a lot of my happiness from the very beginning was like, did I have it was basically, I wrote down people I wanted to work with or jobs I wanted to be a part of, and then you fulfill that and you kind of check it off the list, and then I feel like you never think about it again, and it's kind of like sad, you know, because it's something that maybe you should be a bit more grateful are that you wrote something down on a list and you were able to check it off, you know. And I feel like it's just so much of the beginning of my career was just like, okay, what's the next job? Okay, like I'm looking for the next best thing. Like I need to do that. I'm not happy unless, you know, I do this. And then you do that and you build something else. So you're not even happy when you do that, you know? So it's like taking that step back and being like, shit, just be thankful. Like, yeah, for some of the things that I already have done, even if it wasn't necessarily, you know, my proudest thing that I've ever done. It's like, well, yeah, but be grateful that you can do that, because so many people have 9-to-5s and they can't freelance, or, you know, they're scared to freelance, and just, it takes a different mindset to not be scared to freelance. Yeah. Which, I mean, I was scared for a very long time.
That fear is there. But you touch on the next point, which is, you know, what is kind of your work ethic like? You know, being creative obviously isn't an easy task, and there is kind of this fear of the unknown. But what does it take for you to really do your work that you do?
You know what? I think deep down, I know this is what I love doing. I don't feel like I'm working. Even if it's a job that I've kind of taken where I'm like, okay, well, it's gonna, you know, pay the bills. I never am upset to be there. In the beginning, I felt like I was, and I really had to change my attitude, because it's like, if you're going to say yes to a job, do not be a Debbie Downer, because, you know, you said yes, you're there. Right. So be happy, you know, and that takes a lot of, you know, time and patience to do. So I just have been like, if you've said yes to a job, you are happy to be there, you're excited. And I just started looking at it as like opportunities. Like when you step on set, you know, you don't know everyone. There might be 20 to 50 people brand new that you've never met before. Yeah. And that's a lot of new people that you can befriend and, you know, like maybe create something cool with. So, I mean, again, that is literally how you and I met. We were on a Jimmy Choo set. Yes. I was being obnoxious.
And I was being a production assistant bitch.
Yeah. You remember being at the hotel after working and drinking, and like I was getting carried away, that the artist that I was assisting was like, you're a bit much. And I was like, okay. Yeah. I appreciated her for telling me though, because I was new then.
Yeah.
And I should have known better that getting drunk isn't how you should be.
It was a crazy shoot though. I mean, we were in the middle of the desert. I think they had like, it wasn't like In and Out. I think production went and got like 5,000 burgers and fries. And that was like our crew dinner. And we're sitting in
Another
this like,
plug.
Yeah, exactly. In and Out. Anyways, sorry. But no, it's crazy because it was like, and they had alcohol and everything because it was like a wrap dinner. And it was kind of like, I think that's...
No, this was at the hotel, like after being off of work, and it was in the middle of nowhere, and I was drinking. And it was the Virgin. We were at the Virgin hangar with...
That's right.
What's that damn photographer's name?
Oh, let's not use names. Let's not call people out on this podcast, especially in our industry. We want to work more, don't we?
You're right. It was a major photographer.
Yes, there was a big name photographer that was shooting, and we were in the Virgin Atlantic hangar where they actually had the spaceship.
Yeah.
And actually, the scariest thing was that the week after we did that shoot is when they had that crash and that pilot died on that test. I was like, what the... Well, I'm just glad we weren't there when it happened.
I know.
Can you imagine what a disaster that would have been?
Oh my God. Yeah, that was like literally our hotel was in the middle of nowhere. I was on the first floor and scared to sleep because it was like desert and desert and desert. Yes, and I just was like...
Open. Yeah, I think I'm confusing a shoot in another desert that I did with Vogue magazine. And we were at this, and that's when they went and got us In and Out. That's what a hamburger... Anyways.
Is that their slogan? That's what a hamburger is all about?
No, that's probably another.
Well, fuck. There goes our In and Out.
There goes our sponsor on that one. Shite Madite. Okay. So anyways, yeah, but we met on that Jimmy Choo shoot, and that was nuts. I remember that we shot here in like Hollywood, and I was in charge of driving the huge production truck. And it was probably one of my first or second jobs with that production company. And I remember I bottomed out the truck at the base of this home that we shot in the Hollywood Hills. And I freaked out. Everyone had left me. I was the last person to leave to go out to... We weren't shooting in Palmdale. We were shooting in like... I felt like we were in Arizona. Wherever the Virgin Atlantic thing was at.
Yeah.
And I was freaking out. It was like a 2-hour drive. I think we didn't wrap until... Late. Like 10, and then I had to drive straight there. I was still on the clock, so we're like in triple overtime at this point.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got out there, and then we really, really clicked though when we were at the hangar and doing that crazy shoot.
Yeah.
Which we won't mention the people on set there. And that's really kind of where we made the connection. And I think I want to say a few months later we connected outside of those jobs and we're able to start working on creative projects together.
I don't remember how we connected after that.
I think,
but I'm sure it was like Instagram, some way.
I think we just connected via like text or something like that, and then I had said like, "Oh, we should get together." What was that?
I paged you.
Yes, you paid. Yes, she actually sent a pigeon carrier bird and was like, "Cuckoo, here's your letter. Please write me back."
I wrote it on a scroll.
Not a scroll. Yeah. I can't. That's so good.
Papyrus paper.
Papyrus. We don't like
get your cars at.
We don't like plosives because there's too many P's for pickled peppers in the pickety pack.
Get your all your Mother's Day cards at Papyrus. They have excellent cards.
Wow, she is a spokesperson waiting to be hired. So if you know someone that needs a wonderful spokesperson, please call 1-800-Nicole. Is it Whitman now or Maguire?
It's Maguire.
Officially.
I got married, yeah.
Well, I know you got married, but is it also like as an artist, you're now Nicole Maguire?
It's so funny because recently, like in all the magazines, it's for like Who, What, Where, it was Nicole Whitman. And for like Vanity Fair, it was Nicole Maguire. And I was sending them all to my mother-in-law, and she's just like, you're married now. Like, and I'm like, I know, but I've had a working name. Like, it's hard. So I'm transitioning, if you will, my name to be Maguire.
Got it. I might have to redo this intro then, because I think I said Whitman, but that's okay.
Oh my God.
It's okay.
Start the tape.
Yeah, start over. We've only been a few minutes in. So my next question is, what's one thing that you've learned about yourself working in the makeup industry?
one thing.
Well, it doesn't have to be one thing, but like something kind of big that you've really learned about yourself while being in this industry and being on multiple coasts and working on so many creative projects and on sets. Kind of, has there been something that you really like, wow, this is something about myself I really never recognized until doing this?
That I actually am creative.
Really?
I feel like I'm kind of the black sheep in my family of creative. Everyone is very corporate. And, you know, when I was younger, it was like, you know, you go to college and you get a good job and then you climb the ladder in that job and you make money and, you know, you retire. Why do I sound like a president?
Especially with the thumb in the hand. It's very,
if you
Barack.
could see me, I was very, and then you get a good job. And that's kind of like what my parents instilled with me. Like, I never called out when I was sick because my parents were like, you work hard, you know, and I appreciate that. But now that COVID, I have to call out sick.
Right.
But yeah, so I feel like I was the only one that kind of was a bit like, well, I don't want a 9-to-5 and I want to go create art. I am creative. And I never thought that, maybe because I just, you know, when I look at my family, because that's obviously who I was raised around, like no one there was like super creative or like in the industry even, you know? So yeah, it was just a thing where I'm like, okay, no, you are creative, Nicole. You can, you know, like think outside of the box and you can create things that move people. And it's not always, you know, your audience doesn't have to be your family.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
And it's a tough thing.
Millions of people out there that enjoy your work and want to see it. It doesn't have to.
Millions. That's sweet.
It's true.
Oh.
So, that being said, like, who has been your biggest supporter or fan that's really helped you keep going through this process of, you know, staying in the industry and working as a makeup artist?
Does it sound cheesy to say myself?
That's interesting. I don't think it's cheesy. I think I want to know more.
Because I felt like, okay, you got to get back up. You've got to kind of figure out, you have to make this work, because think of what else would you be doing? Is there something else you would want to be doing? And if it's no, then I have to make this work, you know, regardless of how, you know, cruddy it's gonna get, or you know how many highs you're gonna have and then lows you're gonna have. Like, I don't think that ever goes away, even when you're uber successful, you know, because it's just it's all relative, isn't it? Like, then your highs and lows change from, you know, the higher you get in the career, you know, your highs and lows are just different.
Yeah.
You know, so
I thought you were doing another plug for Uber now. I was like, oh, she wants an Uber company? Oh, okay.
Wait, no. What was Uber like?
No, you said Uber successful. I'm like, I was like, oh, got it. I'm like, Uber. I'm like, wow, she went
and
from
now
Tesla
a word
to
from
Uber.
our Uber sponsors. This whole podcast is
just sponsorships.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're giving me all those spots. Not just the Spotify Anchor spot. I have everything now, guys. Yeah. I love it.
Exactly.
So, speaking of podcasts, this podcast was really born out of COVID-19. You know, I think for myself, it took a lot of time to think and really just figure out what I wanted to do, kind of like what you were sharing. And I really realized that, you know, through our darkest or, you know, most difficult struggles and times is actually where the most like creativity and the drive has to really kind of come out of our own lives. Right. And so the symbolism of the Creative Lotus podcast is that the lotus has the simultaneity of seeding and also blooming at the same time, but without like the photosynthesis or the transformation of all the crap and gunk underneath the water, it can't bloom, and it also wouldn't seed and like reproduce. And so, you know,
they grow in mud.
Exactly.
So they from mud.
Yeah, from mud to flower. Exactly. Right. So
that's me.
Exactly. No, so that's really my question is kind of, you know, as a creative, like, what does your lotus flower life, if you will, in for whatever term that is, what does that really look like or mean to you coming out of COVID and kind of, you know, moving forward?
I just really want other artists to know that they're not the only ones who struggle, you know, and to know that like we all go through it regardless of where we're at in our career, and that doesn't change. Our struggle, like you will always struggle if you want to be in this industry, and that's not a sign of you being shit, you know, that's not a sign of you being mud.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like, yeah, just like the lotus blooms in mud, like you might find some of your best work in a shitstorm, you know, and some of it's, you know, like a lot of my mentors have these amazing stories of like lugging luggage through, you know, the desert when it's like 100 degrees out to just get a picture that they all wanted to create. Right. And it's the same, like we all do that. We all kind of like create in a way in a space that isn't always glamorous. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you just get to like travel everywhere and stay in nice hotels and like the Four Seasons, which now here's a sponsor. No, and that part is great, but I've also stayed in like real shit places and been up at 3 a.m. Driving somewhere. My husband's so sweet. I had a job out in the middle of like not Palmdale. It was like 3 hours away, and they wanted me to be there at 4 a.m. Oof. And I was scared. Gonna put you up. Well, they offered to put me up, but it was like in the middle of nowhere, and I looked up the
Bates Motel.
Yes, the hotel, and I was like, absolutely not. And because I had never met any of the crew before, she's like, oh, you can like share a room with me, and I was like,
absolutely
no,
not.
I know you might murder me. You seem sweet. Yes, I will work for you, but no, I will not stay. I'm not sleeping in the same room with you. You gotta have the egg before the chicken, I think, or you know, whatever it is. He woke up with me at like 1 a.m. to drive with me because I was scared to go by myself, and then sat there for the shoot.
No way.
Yeah, he was with me, and like. But that's the shit we have to do. Like, that it's not always great. And it's not always, you know, like the nicest luxury. I mean, the video came out really cool. Turns out I wasn't murdered.
Yes.
And I didn't end up on like another podcast about a missing body. So that's great. But yeah, it's just like we all go through it, and we all have to do it. And there's you might have to do it for 3 years. It's like, I feel like my parents did tell me like, you know, work hard, you know, put in your time, then you get a promotion. In this career, there is no timeline. There is no, you work hard, you get something to show for it. There's no like promotions.
Right.
You have to like
you promote yourself.
Exactly. And sometimes you might demote yourself, you know, we've all done it. And like, that's the thing with this industry is you might be like, working for Gucci the next day and then find your husband driving with you somewhere because, you know, you're a scaredy cat. So it's just like, and it's all fun. It's all like part of the journey. And like that I realized is the fun part is not just setting a goal that's like up here and then, you know, like trying to reach it. Right. It's like, let's have fun at all the shit that I'm going to have to do in between. Yeah. Because if not, then what are you doing it for? Right. Just to, at the end of the day, say I worked for Gucci. Okay. Right. Like, then what?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that goes exactly back to the question about like, oh, have I made it? And it is those like tick marks, right, on the goal sheet. Yes, absolutely have goals and dreams, but don't make the process to get there like this shitstorm or hell for yourself, because you're gonna look back on it and most likely you won't even make it to that point because you're gonna hate everything you've done to try and get there. So enjoying the struggle and being able to like persevere in that, to know that like you're actually growing this beautiful like lotus at the same time as like being in the muck and annoyances and frustration of, you know, driving to the middle of nowhere and hoping you don't get killed and end up on Criminal, the podcast.
I made it on a Monday and failed on a Friday. It's all in the same week.
Bang. I like it. So looking towards the future, do you have any goals set for yourself for, say, the next 3, 5, 10 years from now? Do you see yourself living here in LA? Do you want more kids? You know, are you want to rule the world of makeup? Are you coming up with your own makeup brand? Like, what's the visions for Nicole Maguire?
I've never wanted my own makeup brand. You can quote me on
I was going to say, said no one? No. I'm
right.
Said Nicole.
I don't. It seems like a lot. And we have so much to choose from. And there's so many people that do it so well. Yeah. So you will not find me competing for that. I would like to probably get with a brand and have, I guess be an ambassador for that brand and grow with a brand as a makeup artist, not as, a sales associate. So
we're not going back down the ladder.
Yeah, so don't come for me. I'm not having a kid and then working backwards. But yeah, I would like to get a deal with a brand, and yeah, whether it's like helping them creatively with images or product, or I feel like that's a long-term goal eventually. I think I would like to do that. I don't know if we'll have more kids. I mean, I'm getting old. There's less eggs to choose from. And the ones that are there are questionable. So yeah, I mean, I think I didn't even know that I wanted to have kids, I was always that girl that's like, okay, if I get married, okay, great. If I have kids, okay, great. Frankie's great. And I don't want to mess it up by having another one, because I hear the first one is the angel that lures you into having a second one.
Aren't you a second child though?
Yes. But once you hit perfection, you stop.
I see.
Or if you fucked up the first time, then you try again.
Try again.
Yeah.
I see. Got it.
I've spent my whole 37 years coming up with comebacks for my brother.
You and my sister would get along so well.
Oh my God. It was so funny because we were recently talking, and it was just my whole life, my brother's like, well, you're adopted. Why do you think there's no pictures of you in the family? And now I'm like, I wish I was adopted. And my mother's like, don't say that, Nicole. And I was like, he spent a good 10 years telling me I was, and now I'm owning it, and everyone's upset.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, you, like I said, you bought this house. Yeah. So that is kind of like the quintessential planting roots in Los Angeles or wherever you're at.
Right.
Do you see yourself staying here? Or is this just kind of like a jump and to the next, next step in your life? I know that your husband is also, from the UK, and right. You're obviously, your roots are back in Vegas.
Oof, we won't be back there.
Not buying a track home.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Mom and Dad. We will not
come visit.
Yeah, we will not. Please, I'm going to actually send this to them so they can listen to it, because I don't think they believe me when I say I won't be back.
Not even in retirement. We're not going. I
will not be back. Yeah, my husband's British, and actually our first home is in England. So this is our second home.
Okay.
So we're international. No, but we don't know. We both work for ourselves. Mm-hmm. He came out here, and again, another blessing for COVID was that he started his own company 4 months before COVID hit. Wow. And they were having trouble getting loans from the banks because they didn't have enough time being a business. Right. So then when COVID hit, they were able to get the loans. So it actually helped him. So now his business is thriving. Wow. So we kind of bought this house, and our mentality is that, we're kind of building a portfolio, if you will, of homes, and we don't know if we're going to sell them or not. Especially here in LA, it's such a good
market.
Yeah. And it always kind of has been. So we'll probably just, keep it, and we'll decide. We've always said that we want Frankie to go to school in England because I want her to be smart.
The shade. The American.
The California,
California shade. It's sunny as hell out here. But listen,
not in
she
here.
got the sunnies on and the umbrella out, girl, because the shade is,
After this past year, honestly, I've never been more embarrassed to be American and white. I literally want to disown both.
Kind of hard on the latter of the two, but okay, yes.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I feel like we're just kind of, doing what feels right. And if neither of us are scared of life, or to, be like, well, I'm not scared to live there and not be near my family, and vice versa. Obviously, I'm so grateful he came out here, and and especially with COVID, like he hasn't seen his family in over a year. They haven't met our baby, and she's a year, and like it's just a lot. Like, and I'm so grateful that like he hasn't complained once, and I know if the roles were reversed, I'd be in London bitching. And he'd be like, please just go home.
Yeah. He'd be like, please just shut up and take the child with you if you have to.
No, please, you and the child go. I think it'll be better for all of us. Sign here. You guys go. But I am so grateful that he... Jesus.
Are we on a racetrack? My gosh, where did you
Sorry,
move?
we're at the Las Vegas Speedway.
I want the Lamborghini. Yes, sir. Here's the keys. Please go.
I mean, so we're just going to, see what happens. And our thoughts were that when Frankie was 5, we would move to England.
Okay.
But that also depends on our business and, what's going on in the world, and what makes sense. And like, we're not led by our baby either. Like, I love that I get to share this with him because him and I are not like, we love Frankie. She honestly is our world, but we're not the type of parents who are like letting her run our, like she came into our lives, and she's integrating nicely. She's such a good baby. Like, and so it's just like, we're not like, oh, but the baby needs this. So we're going to, move here and we're going to then do this. And then, by the time they're 7, it's kind of like, I don't know. I fly by the seat of my pants, and I'm happy that he does allow me to do that. Sometimes he grabs my pants and pulls me back down to earth, so it's nice.
That's good. It's good balance.
Yeah.
You need someone too.
Oh, I did. I really needed him. And I didn't realize that. Like, I feel like I'm so grateful that like everything in my life, like guy wise, didn't work out. You know what I mean? And I feel like I now understand, like, for the first time, like at the age of, probably when we got married, I realized, that's why no one worked out, and not to be scared if something isn't working out, because it's not like you're going to, like, if you don't want to be lonely forever, you won't. You know what I mean? But you also have to be in a good space and know what you want. You know what I mean? To be like, not put up with anyone's bullshit. Because here in LA, you can put up with a lot of bullshit.
Absolutely.
But again, I feel like so much happens even in a year. I've just literally watched this past year of like things happen. And just rolling with it for me, I think is like how you get through, and of course I have thoughts of like where I'll be, and I could definitely live in the, like, I mean, it's going to be reality at some point because my husband's family is there. Right. So I just don't know when that will be and when I'll be ready, because he might have to pull me like kicking and screaming. Yeah. Not that I love London. I love it. The weather.
Yeah. It's a little depressing. Yeah. Maybe go test out Seattle first and then see.
Oh my God, no. Like for the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, a weekend in Seattle. Same thing as London. Got it. Done.
Yeah. It'll probably be one of those things where he doesn't want to go back because he's like, well, it's always sunny here.
Right. No, it's true.
So I did it right, by getting him here.
You snuck him right in. Yeah. You're like, you're not leaving. Guess what?
I was like, come on over, illegal immigrant.
Stop.
Honestly, I'm going to tell you this because I don't care about illegal immigrants coming over here and my tax money paying for it. If you have ever tried to have a illegal immigrant come over legally, it is expensive and you are fucking privileged.
Yes. No, absolutely. Well, not only that, to be honest, right? This country was founded. I mean, now we're
all immigrants.
Yeah, we're all immigrants. Like, who are you kidding? The indigenous people of this country were the actual founding people of it, and we just took it over and just kept on flowing in. So, yeah.
I know. Anyways, I'm sorry to get political, but it's literally something for me now because I've gone through the process and spent the money on it. And I'm like, no wonder I would come over here illegally too. Like, no way. I was like, have any of these people who created this tried to go through their own process? Because I bet you they wouldn't, like, it wouldn't be the way it was if they tried to do it like themselves.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. What's interesting though is a lot of other countries actually have it even more difficult to get into their country and become either a citizen or even stay there like on a visa. America is very difficult to get into, but it is a country that has so many freedoms that people want to be a part of it, right? And
Right.
so I think what's messed up, though, is that so many of these immigrants who have come here pay into taxes. They work and,
harder than we do.
Exactly. Well, ain't that the truth?
They work.
Yeah. They work hard jobs, period. They're not privileged. They're not luxury like us who are dispensable.
Right.
Yeah. No, but to be honest, a lot of it is, right? They're essential workers. They're people that are working hard. They're paying the taxes and they just want a better life for themselves.
You ate through COVID because people would
Yes.
go out and get
work
your
their
food
asses
for
off.
you.
Exactly.
So fuck off.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think that the reality of it is that if we don't have immigration policy, but not even policy, if we don't let people, right, try and come and make a better life in this country, which is what it was kind of founded on, right? Then we're kind of doing ourselves a disservice, because our country can only go so long with what it is. And looking at the way that our next generation of young people are at, it's not like we're popping out babies. I mean, you did, but it's not like we're, creating, generation after generation that is wanting to, keep growing this like American dream. It is becoming so much more diverse. And it's actually because of those immigrants and the patchwork of people that make us so unique and amazing.
Right. Like, I feel like I'm going to teach Frankie, like, leave. Pack your bags and go to Mars.
Yes.
Spend the money and
Yes.
go live on Mars.
Yes. Mom and Dad have a great portfolio. We can totally afford to get you
We
there.
got you a place on Mars. It's
Stop.
fine.
I mean, you never know. That might be the future. Elon is probably from there already. He can tell. He speaks the language. So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for joining and giving us all the tea and letting us know a little bit more about yourself. If people would like to follow you on social media, where can they find you?
Nicole Maguire.
It changed?
Well, it's okay. So
What's your ad handle?
Nicole Whitman Maguire. You go at NicoleWittman, right? And then it'll pop up and it'll say Nicole Whitman Maguire, because I can't afford to lose all my fans because I got married. So I'm in the middle of switching. Everything right now is like Whitman Maguire. It's so funny because like on the call sheet, it'll always say like Whitman already spelled wrong. So I'm like, fine. And then I'll just go in there and change it to Maguire, or I have to go get a COVID test and they're like, what's your name? And I was like, Nicole Maguire. And they're like, And I'm just like, well, you didn't ask me if I had a new last name, and I do. And you just put Whitman because you've known me for 10 years. So
there you go.
did you find me?
Yeah. So it's,
Well, you're already following me, you weirdo.
of course. So it's at
Right?
Nicole Whitman, but in her actual biography, it says Nicole Maguire, (Whitman). So yes. So at Nicole Whitman on Instagram. Are you on Twitter or Facebook or any of those other jazzy things? Are you a TikToker?
Oh my God. I am on TikTok, but I haven't done for a while. I did really ramp it up during COVID. I'm funny though. So if I do create TikToks, they're funny. So maybe just follow me in the sense that if I make a TikTok in the next month or something, it'll be great.
Wow. Beep, beep, honk, honk. There's her promotion. Let's go.
Instagram is my main.
Page.
Yeah. Or you can call me.
Oh,
Yeah. And we can hang out.
there we go.
Yeah. Not all of you, but you.
Yes.
I'm
me.
pointing at you.
Great.
Right.
So
And not you.
if we want to see more of your work or your full portfolios, is there a website we can go to?
Yeah. It's www.NicoleLMaguire.com.
Wonderful.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for joining today's podcast. I look forward to chatting with you off the air.
It was so good. I'm so glad you asked me to do this. One, because I get to see you. And two, because this is great. I'm so excited that you're doing this podcast. And it's fantastic. So I'm glad that, this is happening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Proud
Much
of you.
appreciated. Proud of you.
Proud of you.
Oh, I like that. Double tap and peace. We out.
We out.
Wow, that was a really fun episode to record. Thank you again to Nicole for allowing me to do the interview and having such a great time. This week's Buddhist quote of the day is, "What does attaining Buddhahood mean for us? It does not mean that one day we suddenly turn into a Buddha or become magically enlightened. Someone who claims the latter is more than likely a fraud. In a sense, attaining Buddhahood means that we have securely entered the path or orbit of Buddhahood." By Daisaku Ikeda, Faith into Action. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Creative Lotus Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Zaki. Please go ahead and subscribe, rate us, and write a review. And follow me at Alan Zaki on social media. I look forward to having more amazing creative dialogues on the next episode.